California Management Review Journal dedicated one of their recent issues to open innovation, and Professor Henry Chesbrough, who is considered to be a father of an open innovation approach, wrote an article, Open Innovation, Accomplishments and Prospects for the Next 20 Years, for this issue. And one of the topics was findings and results from open innovation, and Professor Chesbrough mentions that there have been many more studies of the success of this approach than of its failures, and it's kind of a fair criticism. Failures are connected to challenges we face in the process of open innovation projects, and I can say that there aren't that many papers on open innovation challenges either. But this is the topic I want to talk about today. Open innovation challenges, and specifically those that are connected to outside-in open innovation or collaborative innovation projects, and how to overcome these challenges. I have a short video about challenges in industry-academia partnership, but today I want to have a more general conversation about challenges that are connected to collaboration with any type of a partner. And of course, I would appreciate your insights about challenges that you faced during your open innovation projects, and I'm pretty sure that your peers would also be interested to read these insights. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Lisa and I spent 5 years organizing collaborative university competitions for world well-known companies to solve their extreme innovation challenges, and now I continue my journey with the goal to foster innovation by helping different parties of the innovation process collaborate and co-create. On this channel, I explore collaboration projects for innovation management, share my experience in managing these projects and processes, and uncover strategies for making collaboration efforts more effective. Now, first of all, before we get to describing all these different challenges and answering the question how to overcome them, I would like to suggest categorizing these challenges that we might experience during our collaborative innovation projects, and I'd split them into 4 different groups. I would be talking about strategic challenges, organizational ones, legal, and cultural. And I want to start our conversation with, of course, strategic challenges. And the very first one that I want to mention is coming up with the right problem. I talk a lot about this on this channel because I believe that when you make a decision about starting a collaborative project that involves an external partner, you need to make sure that you have the right challenge. The type of the project that you will choose, the framework, how many partners you are going to invite, who these partners are, will depend on the challenge that you need to solve, on the problem that you need to solve. And for many companies, it is really not that easy to find the right problem for the project. It is often difficult to see where, in what area you need to innovate, let alone conduct a collaborative project. But this is a very important question that you need to answer, you must answer, because open innovation projects, collaborative projects, they require quite some money and resources of your team, of your company. So you need to make sure that solving the problem would potentially bring you substantial gains. You cannot invest in an open innovation project, lots of your resources to solve a problem that would not bring you enough revenue or substantial knowledge or, I don't know, other substantial benefits. So you need to keep in mind the potential return on investment. It should be positive in your calculations. And of course, I do believe that it should be aligned with the strategy of your company. You and your executives need to understand why exactly you do that, why you do this project, especially if you have never tried open innovation projects before, never conducted collaborative projects. Also, when you are choosing the right problem for such a project, I would suggest coming up with something ambitious, or at least a problem your team has no experience with. Because if your team can solve it, why would you even bother organizing such a resource-intensive process? I wouldn't bother, really. Then you also need to have a clear picture of what you are trying to achieve, whether it's radical innovation or incremental innovation. With incremental innovation, it's of course easier because it's just an improvement of your current process or your current product, and you know what you're working with and which key metrics you are trying to achieve. With radical innovation, it's more open-ended, so your participants would have more freedom, but you still need to have clear criteria for evaluating solutions, obviously. Maybe they will not meet all their requirements, it doesn't really matter, but you need to have this system, you need to understand how you're going to evaluate them. If you fail to define the right problem, solving which would bring substantial benefits to your company, you risk wasting a huge amount of money and time, of course. The right problem is the cornerstone of your successful collaborative project. And if you are uncertain about the problem for your open innovation project, I would suggest to consult an expert before proceeding with the process. The next challenge that I want to mention is connected to misaligned goals. And trust me, you're going to see this challenge from all the different sides during collaborative innovation project, because you will see different goals of your team members, and you will face the fact that your research partners, it doesn't really matter who they are. It can be universities, it can be, like research labs, it could be your competitors. They have different goals. They are different to your goals. And first of all, of course, when you're trying to overcome this misaligned goals challenge, it's crucial to align your entire team and executives on your goals, on the goals of your company from this open innovation project. Ultimately, you want to solve the problem. You want to get a result, get a new product that is going to be commercially successful, and then there are other goals that you might have in mind. For example, acquiring new knowledge or new information. And it's also an important goal to have, because this knowledge and this new information that you can gain during such a project, it might be beneficial for you in the future. And in case you don't actually solve the problem, because this might happen, there is no 100% guarantee that you are going to solve the problem that you have during a project. You would still gain these benefits, you would still have this knowledge from the project that you would be able to use later. Sometimes you might also have some extra goals. For example, you want to enhance your innovation culture in your company, you want to learn a new framework, a new collaboration model, or you might want to hire some PhD students after they graduate from the university, and during a collaborative project you would have a chance to see how they perform and you would be able to choose the best ones. So there are other different goals that you might have in mind, and it's better that you also keep them and you also align your team and make sure that everyone in your team understands them. Then I would also like to make a reference to my first point about agreeing on what problem you're trying to solve, and you need to agree about it with your team, with your team members, because in my experience, I've seen cases where different company stakeholders, they had conflicting views on the challenge for the project, and they pushed for different criteria, different applications of the final product, and as the result, the projects, they didn't really move forward. So you can't solve everything at once, and if your internal team isn't aligned on what exactly you're trying to solve, on what is the application for the problem, the project is going to fail. But then again, let's imagine that you agreed within your team, you have misaligned goals with your research partners, and finding a common objective is very difficult, but it is essential for the success of the whole venture. In our projects that we manage, we often work with companies and universities and other organizations, and each organization, they have their distinct goals. And as the project facilitator, we have to keep all these goals in mind. University teams, for instance, in most cases, they are not looking for the same outcome as you have. Some academic teams, they primarily seek for funding, which is completely normal. Some of them are just looking for an interesting challenge to work on. Of course, they want to publish papers, they want to gain recognition sometimes, they want to collaborate with a big company. So they have all these goals. Understanding these motivations help us to manage and facilitate collaboration more effectively. Solving this problem that the company outlined should become an ultimate goal that will allow everyone to achieve their own personal and team goals as well. Another strategic challenge that I want to mention is skepticism towards open innovation, and it is one of the biggest challenges in collaborative projects. We will cover this topic from a different cultural perspective a little bit later. It's going to be a more personal side, I would say, but I want to mention the prejudice towards the open innovation projects here as a part of the strategic challenges as well, because it does influence the decision of the company of conducting such processes and how they will be conducted. The thing is, many companies and managers of these companies experience repeated failures in such projects. This is a completely normal thing. I constantly say that collaborative projects, if they are conducted, managed in a correct way, in the right way, they increase your chances for success, but they do not guarantee it. And you will face failures, which of course leads to skepticism about external collaborations in general. And I've seen this skepticism firsthand. We constantly face it. But how do we deal with this? Again, unfortunately, because I cannot guarantee the success of any collaborative innovation project, no one can, failure is a natural part of innovation. Most startups fail. Most initiatives will never see the world, and that's okay. Out of 100 struggling startups, one might succeed and bring something groundbreaking to the world. Failure is a normal part of the process. Absolutely normal. You face failures with your internal R&D activities. I'm pretty sure about that every company has failures with their internal practices. And the external R&D activities are no different, of course, despite the fact that you invest more usually into such projects, but still. But we need to normalize failures. We need to understand that they are a part of the process. And of course, they should go from the top of your company. They should go from the executives. They need to demonstrate that they accept failures and they accept mistakes, and that, yeah, we might fail with our open innovation project. It's totally normal. Again, there are other benefits that you gain with such projects, like knowledge and information that you could have never acquired without it. So this is my first suggestion on how to overcome skepticism. And another way, as Rob Kirschbaum, ex-VP of Open Innovation and DSM, mentioned in his interview, is to show successful cases, talk about them, show how much such cases bring to the company, and they might cover all these previous unsuccessful attempts. And of course, you need to talk to your people, you need to talk to managers, executives, explain, answer their questions. Just talk to people. This might help somehow. And of course, I believe that sometimes it does make sense to suggest doing a test project, launch something small and try and show how much the company and people could gain from it. Now let's talk about organizational challenges, and the very first one that I want to mention is a lack of clear process or just difficulty to come up with the right one. And I always emphasize the need for a clear process in your collaborative innovation projects, a well-defined plan outlining how we will achieve our results. the steps involved, and what we expect from each phase of the project. All of it is extremely important. It should be there. Without it, don't even try to start. Like, honestly, don't even try. But here comes the challenge. You need to come up with this clear process that is going to help you get the outcome that you want. And the truth is, different companies, they all have different processes. And I still wonder, what is the most effective one? Does a perfect process even exist? Because I don't think so, Of course, what works best varies from company to company. In our case, when it comes to our projects, we have a well-developed process that has been tested, but we are still experimenting, refining, and we're still searching for improvements of this process. One of the reasons why I'm working on this channel is because I'm still looking for what I need to change, for what I can improve, how to organize everything in a better way that is going to help companies reach their goals more efficiently. We constantly analyze what worked, what didn't work, and how we can improve after every single project that we conduct. Nevertheless, you need to start with something. And here, it's very difficult where exactly you should start. Probably, you need to understand how deeply your company is ready to dive in open innovation. Because many companies, they organize some special programs, they organize some accelerators, incubators, they go for crowdsourcing. Some prefer to organize collaborative innovation projects like we do, something just separate what they do from time to time. And some companies, they have combinations of those approaches. And I believe that honestly, there is no point to go wild and organize an open innovation program straight away if you have never tried an open innovation approach. I don't think it's going to be wise. I think it's much wiser to start with experimental projects, something specific collaborative innovation projects to solve a specific problem that you have. Choose something, go with a consulting company or go with your own efforts. Try to partner with another company, with another organization or university. And you will see, you will try, you will see benefits, you will see difficulties on the way, and then you will understand whether you need any special open innovation program or no. However, no matter which way you choose, if you have never conducted anything like that before, I'd recommend finding someone with experience, someone who has this expertise and who can share their knowledge and their processes with you. This might be a consultant or a company that organizes such processes, an open innovation expert who has retired, whoever you can find. But just go and find this expert who can talk to you, who can talk about your goals, and who can help you find the right model to start with. With the right model comes the right process. Then, once you get access to this process, don't follow it blindly. Instead, it's better to adapt and customize it to fit your company's needs and specific problems you're planning to tackle. For example, you might need more testing phases in your process for your products, or you'd like to add the pilot plant testing. This is also something to consider, to think about. And also, as I mentioned, the challenges that you are going to choose at the beginning will shape your entire process of the project. So it is crucial to align the framework that you will get with your project's unique needs. Once you have this process, it is important that everyone involved in the project understands it. It means that you should be explicit with your partners about all the details of it. You should be explicit with your team members, first of all, to start with, but with your partners as well. And though it is not easy to come up with the right process, you just need to continuously learn, test, refine, and eventually you will develop something that is going to work best for your company. The next challenge that I want to mention here is partner selection. It is a tricky one because how do you choose the right partner to work with on your project? There are so many factors to consider, and making the wrong choice can be really costly for your company. And it's not just about money. Time is the real issue here, because if you end up with the wrong partner, you'll waste valuable time working on a project that might go nowhere. And in some cases, you really don't have this time. Now, how do you solve this challenge of partner selection? First of all, again, everything depends on the challenge and the problem you are trying to solve. I've already talked about the difference between incremental innovation and radical innovation, and this distinction might play a major role in partner selection. When it comes to developing incremental innovation, you probably don't need many partners. It's more important that you choose one trusted partner, someone that you have worked with before, who understands your processes well, and with whom you would work more intensively. When it comes to radical innovation, and I actually would like to add here difficult incremental challenges as well, you need a diverse range of partners. I strongly advise seeking out new partners, even from adjacent areas, rather than just your specific problem area. Bringing in fresh perspectives from all over the world, from new partners, from new organizations, it can make a huge difference for a radical innovation project. And that's what I've seen many times in projects that I managed, that I participated in. So I highly recommend you to do it. And of course, you need to think about who your partners should be, because there are different models, again, and you might work with academia, you might work with university teams, or you might work with your customers and your partners, and as I mentioned, even your competitors. A lot depends on the challenge, of course, and sometimes your best research partner would be your customer and not academia even. Then, in order to select the right partner, you actually need to have very clear selection criteria. In one of my previous videos about collaborating with universities, I explained it in more detail, so you can watch it. But of course, you need technical criteria to evaluate solutions suggested by your partner. I'm not talking about cases when you work with your customers. So you need to evaluate their hard skills, where exactly in the process they can help you, and whether they can actually help you with anything, you know. But I would say that soft skills matter too. You want a partner who's reliable. It is really important. Also, what we do with my team, we always seek out unconventional ideas, unconventional solutions. If a solution introduces a new technology or a fresh approach, we do our best to include them in the project. It's not always necessary. When it comes to, again, to incremental innovation, something pretty minor, you wouldn't need it. But for other cases, again, for radical innovation or some cases of really difficult to solve incremental challenges, it's good to have. And I also believe that it's really good to bring in third-party experts to evaluate potential partners and their potential solutions that they're bringing. This is something that, again, Rob Kirschbaum mentioned in his interview. And I believe that bringing external experts can also help fight biases of your decision-making team. Cognitive biases are unavoidable, but bringing in fresh perspectives from third-party experts that are in no way represent interests of any sides of the project, they do not represent any stakeholders, it can help to fight these biases of your team, and it would lead to better choices. And I also wonder how different AI platforms could help here. I wouldn't fully rely on help from AI at this stage of their development though, but it's something to think about and maybe test, maybe try. Another challenge that we of course should mention here is complex process management, coordination in general. And it's one of the biggest organizational challenges in collaborative research and open innovation projects, because such projects are inherently difficult to manage. that involve multiple partners, again, with their different priorities, their different goals and working styles. They might come from different countries, industries, academic backgrounds, and each with their own mentality and approach to work. You will inevitably face challenges in coordination simply because every team operates in its own way. And it's really difficult to say how to solve this challenge of coordination. In many ways, the only real solution is experience. However, there are a few key strategies that can make coordination smoother. And the very first one, I should mention that it's an absolute must to have a strong project coordinator. And I would recommend to having an external coordinator, someone who isn't directly tied to any single partner, who isn't tied to you, because this can help to eliminate bias and it would help to fairly represent the interests of involved parties. In my opinion, this is especially useful in university-industry collaborations, where you need to balance these academic and business objectives, and it can be tricky despite the fact that you might pay for the project. Still, it's not so easy to work with academic partners when you are a business, when you're coming from the industry. In addition to your project coordinator, if you do not invite an external facilitator of the process, you can define a person or a couple of them on your side that your partners can directly communicate to. Again, a lot depends on how many partners, external partners, you are going to involve. There could be a couple of such persons, and we do this if we work on a hackathon, for example. We have a number of teams involved in a collaboration process because your partners, they need to know who they can talk to about whatever problem they have. And it's not always can be a project coordinator, sometimes it can be, but you need to make sure that they have these people in your team and they can get in touch with these people and they can clarify whatever information they need to clarify. The next point is, of course, about establishing clear processes, and this is something that we talked about. If you're managing coordination internally, having structured processes in place is essential. As I said, this is very important. And apart from main steps and main milestones, these processes should also cover information about how decisions will be made and how information will be shared. So all those things, they need to be defined before you start with your project. And it will, of course, help you make your project more manageable despite its complexity. And another thing that I want to add here is think about responsibilities. You need to make sure that each party of your process knows who is responsible for what, which part, at which stage they should become active, they should be involved. This should be very clear. Open innovation projects, they have a lot of uncertainties. So all the things that you can make clear, you must make them clear. You must define them before they start, because the process most likely will be changed, probably at least some details, and you should be flexible, but at least have this plan. And it will reduce the complexity of coordination at least a little bit. It will at least make it manageable. And also, I want to suggest to not overcomplicate things and not overcomplicate your processes, because they are already complicated enough. Now let's talk about another challenge, and it is connected to quality control. Obviously, in your company, you have your own procedures in place to ensure quality of your products and processes and developments, so you can be confident that what you do is right and it is of high quality. But how can you be sure that your collaboration partner is doing their best work following the necessary procedures and meeting the required standards? And the truth is, you can never be 100% sure, and I'm sorry for saying this. The way we handle it with my company and projects that we conduct for our clients, and the way we did it when I worked for another company, the way we did it for long research projects that take a couple of months, it was by setting up multiple checkpoints. For example, in a year-long project, we had several meetings when the company could assess the progress made, and at each checkpoint, they could evaluate what had been done, how the universities were performing, and they could decide whether they want to continue with the process or not. And if they were not happy with a specific university or overall results, they had the option to stop the project entirely or drop a particular team. And I believe that this approach might be really helpful, and you can do something like that in your process as well. Another important step is, I would say, visiting your research partners. Whenever possible, we meet them on site to get a first-hand look at their work, what they're doing, look at the equipment that they use, etc. And I highly recommend you visiting your partners' research facilities too. Another key element in quality control is, I believe, having clearly defined testing procedures from the very beginning, from the start. You need to outline what you're going to test, how you're going to test it, when exactly in the process testing will take place. So when you do it this way, there is no ambiguity. If you cannot test the solution yourself, you can bring in someone who can into the process, and that's what we do. For example, if the client does not have the right equipment, we find a lab or another partner to handle this quality control. Now, obviously, ensuring quality in collaborative research projects is not easy, but with the right approach, you can minimize risks and you can keep your project on track. Another organizational challenge is connected to the high cost of open innovation projects and time investment you need to make. And if we're talking about the project where you're not just gathering ideas, if we're not talking about hackathons, for example, that last just a couple of days and they do not require a big amount of money to invest. But if you're actually looking for solutions, like for prototypes, for the product, for the material, whatever, it will require time and money. And the more complex the problem you are solving, the more money and time you will probably need. And I would love to have a particular solution for this challenge, but I'm sorry, I don't really have one. When it comes to costs, I would suggest to look for partners that are not like that well known. They would cost you less. For example, if you want to work with a university, you might find a smaller, less known university in your country. Trust me, you don't need a top university, you don't need a top research lab to succeed. Also, projects that involve not only collaboration, but they also have a little bit of competition. They might require less time than just going with a one-on-one process with your partner. Again, something that I observed during projects that I took part in, that I managed. And in general, organizing a clear process, again, coming back to this point, should also help you save money and time, of course. But this is a must. And we are coming to another bunch of challenges which are connected to legal questions. And I want to start with intellectual property concerns. Obviously, this is one of the biggest legal challenges in open innovation. And I've mentioned this a number of times on this channel, and I think it's pretty clear that if you're going to conduct an open innovation project, you need to make sure that you discuss all the IP questions before you start working with any team or teams. If you want to have a patent at the end of the process, make sure that you agree on that before they start. Your partners must agree to this, and you should sign a contract that mentions it. It's going to be a challenge if you don't do it. Trust me. Discussing intellectual property in the middle of the challenge, in the middle of the project, it's not a good idea. It can destroy your relationships. It can destroy your process entirely. I think it's pretty obvious, but I just need to make sure that you understand it. You also need to discuss with your partners what exactly you want to protect. In cases of projects that I managed and the client company always obtained patents in these projects at the end of them, always, if they wanted to, of course. We were limiting IP rights to specific fields of application. It gave a chance to research partners to file patents on the solution for other fields as well and offer their ideas to companies in other areas. It allowed to reduce costs for the client company, so they paid for the patent less than if they were to file a patent for all different applications for all different fields. And they do not always need this. And the partners, they were more willing to collaborate. Then, of course, I should mention background IP. It is important to document all the background IP that you and your partners might use in collaboration. And make sure that you also grant licenses in case you and your partner want to use some background IP assets of each other. And you should remember that modifications in background IP made during the collaborative project, they might become new IP, so make sure that you discuss ownership in such cases as well. And now everything that you have discussed that is related to IP, it should be mentioned, it should be documented in the agreements that you are going to sign with your partners. Now, another legal challenge that you're going to face with open innovation projects is signing agreements in general and deciding on all the legal terms. It's going to take some time, and you might spend some months with your legal department, with your legal team working on these issues and working on signing agreements with all the partners for the project. And for this challenge, I also have no real solution. The way that we do things at my company is that we have a standard agreement that we adjust, of course, from project to project, but we don't make any significant changes. And still, all these legal questions are something that I don't particularly enjoy when working on collaborative projects. It's just something to keep in mind. Because you will have different priorities and interests of all parties involved, and the best thing that you can do is to take that into account and try to find an agreement that is going to work for all of you. And of course, you need to make sure that you have a good legal team on your side. When it comes to big companies, they have it. It's not going to be an issue for them, but for small ones, it might be. So remember that if you're coming from a small company. Now let's talk about cultural challenges. And the very first cultural challenge I want to mention is internal resistance. And it's very close to the one that I mentioned at the very beginning, which is skepticism towards open innovation projects. But here I want to be more specific and again, more personal. I'm talking about the case when your team and your team members are not happy about the fact that you're going to conduct a project with another partner or partners. They may openly resist to an idea or even sabotage the project and the entire process. This is a big issue that needs to be addressed. And it's very likely that you will face this issue. Of course, a lot depends on the company's culture. It's going to be less of an issue if your culture is quite open and you allow a lot of experiments. But yeah, it still might happen, it still might occur. There are many different reasons why your team might not be happy with the collaboration, and one of them is called not invented here syndrome. This is when you and your people believe that they are the only ones who can do the job and solve your problem, or they can do it better than anyone else on this planet. And you need to fight against this mindset because it prevents your internal experts from acquiring important knowledge. I mean, of course, you can tell your experts that you're going to conduct this project anyway, and they should participate, but you cannot really make them gain knowledge from external experts if they have this mindset and if they don't want to gain this knowledge, it is really important for them to stay open-minded. And how do you solve it? How do you solve this particular issue? Which is a good question. In my opinion, you must explain why you're collaborating with other teams. Because some of your team members, they might feel threatened by the idea of inviting someone from the outside. They might feel like you don't consider them good enough to solve the challenge. And it's crucial to emphasize that you value their expertise and knowledge, but you're just trying to bring something new to the table. New information, new knowledge. You might also highlight that this is an opportunity for them to learn more and gain new knowledge and become more valuable experts. In general, you just need to show your team that what you're going to do is beneficial not just for the company, but for them as well. You might also motivate them and motivate the internal team by making them responsible for the success of the project. They shouldn't just be the decision makers. They should also be the ones responsible for making things happen, for finding solutions, and for working with teams. They need to be actively involved in the process, not just sitting on the sidelines. They should meet with the teams, they should interact with them, ask questions and answer questions, and build personal connections. That is why it is so important to meet offline for everyone with your collaboration partners. Another big issue within this challenge is that when team members are resistant to collaborative projects, they may be unwilling to share important information with research partners. They might want to keep as much information as possible to themselves, and this might be a huge problem. I've seen it a number of times during our collaborative projects, and it's not good for anyone. And this is very common at the beginning of the process when everyone is very skeptical. But then, even if experts reveal the important information later, the damage might have been done already. And it can destroy the process because it wasn't shared at the start. You need to share everything that is important, that is related to the problem that you are trying to solve at the very beginning of the challenge. If you don't do it, well, face the consequences, face the failure of your project. The external partners that participate in the process, they need to have this essential knowledge. They need to know what they do and what are the constraints, what are the borders they should operate within. And it's quite difficult to deal with such a behavior because this is a lot about trust. Sharing information should be supported at the highest level and it should be encouraged. And managers should actively support it, executives should support it. Also, together with your colleagues, before the start of the process, define what can be shared openly with all the participants, even before the project begins, what should be shared after everyone signs an NDA, and what should never be shared under any circumstances. The more open you can be, the better it is for the good of the project. So the more information you are ready to give, the better it is for everyone and the better it is for you. Because at the end of the day, you are the one who needs the problem to be solved, right? So it's in your interest. Another cultural challenge is miscommunication. And we're talking about failing to deliver the message that we have in mind. And when it comes to open innovation projects, when we're dealing with so many different partners, we need to make sure that we're as explicit as possible. But still, we cannot read minds of others. We don't know whether the message is understood in a way that we want it to. So how do we deal with that? First of all, there are certain things that everyone in the process should understand as best as they could. And we are talking about the challenge itself, the problem that we are trying to solve, what is expected throughout the process from participants. And we're talking about the process, of course, about all the different steps, how the decisions are made and everything. It is important to create also an atmosphere, an environment where people are not afraid to ask questions about those things and about all other things, okay? And they also should feel themselves comfortable to answer questions of other parties as well. The coordinator of the process, the facilitator, they should have really strong relationships with all the different parties. Then we're going to have meetings where everyone is gathered, and when we'll be talking about the challenge and possible solutions, and there will likely be questions that aren't voiced out loud. And these unspoken questions are actually very important, and this is crucial to get them. And that's where the coordinator of the process should take an active role and try to identify these questions and gather them and answer them. For example, it can be done via one-on-one conversations or kind of group conversations, at least with a group leader. Among decision makers, it's also vital to talk to everyone, and a project coordinator needs to ensure that communication is effective between all the parties, within all the parties. They should make as much effort as it is needed to gain as much concerns and questions and comments as possible. No concerns, no questions, no matter how small they are, should go unaddressed. Then, miscommunication often stems from trust issues. That's why I believe it is really helpful to have offline meetings at every step of your process, because this will allow you to see and hear people's reactions directly, because we of course have virtual meetings like Zoom and they're convenient, but sometimes, quite often actually, you miss the nuances that you would catch in face-to-face communication. And in general, when you gather offline, it's easier to establish trust. It's easier to build it. But anyway, since the teams won't always work together, it is essential to have also an online platform for communication. And there are many different solutions that exist right now. For instance, you might use MS Teams if you use it in your organization, and you can invite people from outside to join your space and create channels and chats. And this will allow you to communicate with your collaboration partner at any time during the process. It will allow you to share opinion or ask questions or answer their questions as well. And it is really important that everyone has access to these platforms and that everyone feels comfortable expressing their thoughts on these platforms. Then we're talking about open communication. So it's better to share your thoughts and opinions and concerns in open channels where everyone is present, because it would allow everyone to discuss things openly. It will allow ideas spark further insights and further solutions, For example, one team's idea that they shared in the chat might inspire another team, And we, of course, should not forget about documenting all these ideas and documentation of the solutions in general. And there are a lot of tools, again, that would allow you to track changes, who made them, when they were made. This is, I believe, an effective way to manage all the different updates and revisions that might happen. Then, in order to encourage open communication, it's good to answer questions as soon as it's possible, as soon as you see them, or provide feedback to whatever your partner shared, to react on their updates, to somehow show your reaction to whatever they post, And of course, share, post yourselves. Message to your partners yourself. Just don't go crazy with micromanagement. Don't try to control your partners. Don't ask them to share every detail of the process in the channel, okay? You need to trust your partners, really. And as we're talking about trust, I cannot skip this one. This trust challenge. I'd never stop talking about it, because when you work with another team, it's quite difficult to trust them. But it is essential. If we're talking about innovation projects, this is a must. You should somehow trust your partners. But how do you trust? How do you trust your partner you have never worked with before? And it's a difficult question to answer. Obviously, before the start of the project, you will have communication with your partner. And based on that communication, you can make some assumptions about whether you trust these people or not. I believe that also having a solid legal background is important, and it's going to help you here as well. And you need to have proper agreements in place that will keep both you and your partner safe throughout an entire process. Particularly, we're talking about agreements related to intellectual property, like background IP. So with this legal background in place, some initial communication that you had, again, if we're talking about completely new to you partners, because sometimes you might have a project with the team you have worked with before, and it's going to be easier, of course, but sometimes you need to choose a completely new research partner. With all this in place and your gut feeling as well, you can more or less decide whether you trust your potential partners or not. However, I would also suggest having a process in place where, again, you can evaluate their work at certain points. And this way, you can assess whether everything is going well and stop if something doesn't work, like something doesn't work at all. And again, another aspect of building trust is meeting people offline, meeting people in person, and having informal conversations. Of course, you will talk about the project, but it's good to have dinners. It's good to go out with your partners. It's good to go do something that is not related to the project. And this is something that I always mention, and this is something that we are always trying to do during our projects, because I believe this is really important. And you just meet with people, you talk to them, and that's how you build trust, and that's how you strengthening your bonds, and that's the way to do it. Now, one more point that I want to talk about is the challenge of working with people representing different backgrounds. I have worked with teams from all over the world, from Japan to European countries, from Africa to South America. I've worked with people from New Zealand and from the United States. Very diverse people with very different backgrounds. And honestly, I absolutely love this aspect of my job, having a chance to work with researchers from all over the world. This is the best thing, really. However, it can be difficult for some people. So how do you overcome this issue if you happen to have a project that involves a number of very diverse teams? Here again, we're talking about having a project coordinator, like a neutral party that is going to resolve any issues. Then, apart from that, I would also suggest you involving your team members if they represent nationalities of your external partners. For example, if you have a team member from China, it's great to invite them for the project in case you're working with a company or university from China. Even if your internal expert, they're not familiar with the particular technology you're working on, it would just simplify communication, and it would allow you to better understand your Chinese partners. And I would also quickly give you an example from a project that I managed. We worked with a large company with offices in all the different parts of the world. And for this project, we made sure that the client company involved their local representatives from their offices. For example, we had a team from Turkey, and the Turkish office was involved in the project. This made it so much easier for everyone, and we were able to conduct some trials with these local offices, and it helped to build connections. It helped local teams feel more confident in what they are doing and get some answers to questions they were hesitant to ask the main decision-making team. Now, in general, to solve this challenge of working with different nationalities and different teams with different background, you also just need to be empathetic, I believe, and willing to understand a very different cultural code and mentality. Appreciating these differences that you will face, it's crucial. But trust me, it's such a beautiful thing to have people with diverse backgrounds. It's just amazing to see them, to see their uniqueness, and to see how this uniqueness contributes to solving your problem. And of course, meet with your partners in their locations. Build this bridge. It will help you to connect better. Communicate, collaborate, co-create, and I believe it's the key, and it's gonna save our world. Now, I hope this video was useful for you and you see some solutions to the open innovation challenges that you might face. And in case you have any other questions about other challenges that I forgot to mention, please feel free to share them in the comment section below. Again, please feel free to share your experience and how you overcame certain challenges during your open innovation, your collaborative projects. It is highly appreciated by me and by your peers as well. And yeah, I just hope to see you in the next video and have a good one. Bye!